Okay, Chapter 3, Lesson 3. This is Measures of Central Tendency. Your book calls it mean, median, and mode, but we're going to use the fancy term, Measures of Central Tendency, because we're big boys and big girls now. Alright, so these are measurements used to express the middle of a data set. So we're thinking of things like averages, the middle value, that kind of stuff. Okay, the most common ones of these, there are more than 3 measures of central tendency, but we usually only go with 3 of them. The most common ones are mean, median, and mode. Okay, M, measures of central tendency, kind of easy to remember. So let's start with mean. Okay, mean is the meanest one because it requires you to do the most amount of work. So mean is the sum of the data divided by the number of data values that you have. So if you have a list of numbers like 2, 6, 1, and 3, the sum means to add them all up. So that would be 12. 2 plus 6 plus 1 plus 3 is 12. Then we're going to divide by the number of numbers that we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. So 12, the sum, divided by 4 values, is 3. So the mean is 3. In math classes in the past, you may have called it average. Okay? Well, in big boy, big girl math, we call it the mean. It's the same thing. The next measure of central tendency is the median. Okay? It's the middle value in a, notice the key word here, sorted data set. The values need to be in least to greatest order. Sorted data set. If they are not in order, you need to put them in order first before finding the median. All right, now when you think of median, it's easy to remember because if you've ever been driving down the road with your parents or whoever, okay, the middle of the road, the grassy section in between the 2 parts of the highway, that's called the median. It's literally the middle. So we're looking for the middle number. So I've listed out 5 numbers here, 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. The number that's in the dead center of that sorted data set is 4. So 4 is the median. Now that's for if you have an odd number of values. There's 5 values and that's odd. But what if you have an even number of values in a list, like 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10? Well, there's 2 numbers in the middle, 7 and 8. Well, what you do when there's 2 numbers in the middle is you find the mean of those 2 numbers. So 7 plus 8 divided by 2, 7.5 is the median of that list of 6 numbers. Okay, that sorted list of 6 numbers. All right, let's go ahead and move on. The next measure of central tendency is the mode. It's the value that occurs the most often. So you can think of mode, most. Okay, mode, most. Easy to remember. I know it's corny, but it works. All right, so take a look at a few examples. If we have a list, 6, 3, 4, 6, 8, 6, 6. Okay, 6 is the value that occurs the most often, so 6 is the mode. In the next example, we have 7, 7, 8, 8, 1, 2, 3. 7 and 8 are both the mode. Okay, they are the mode. There's 2 modes in this list of numbers. They both appear the same number of times, so they both have to be considered part of the mode. So if I were to ask you what the mode is, you'd say 7 and 8. It's not just 7, it's not just 8, it's both of them, 7 and 8. For example 3, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, there's no mode for something like this. Okay, all of the values occur the same number of times, and that's 1 time. So there is no mode in that list of numbers. Finally, let's do some vocabulary related to measures of central tendency. A big one, big vocabulary word that you need to know, so make sure you have that down in the notes that you're taking right now, is an outlier. Okay, outlier. It's values that are much larger or much smaller than the rest of the data. Okay, an example that I normally give in class would I'd say something like, if me, Mr. Bohorik, I'm 6'6". If I were transported to Munchkin Land from the Wizard of Oz and we were measuring the heights of everybody, I would be an outlier because I would be at least twice as tall as everybody. If we're talking about money, say we have $1.27, $2.43, $5, $1.20, and then Bill Gates walks in the room and he's got $1 million in his pocket. Okay, that $1 million is an outlier. That's way bigger than what we all have as far as money is concerned. Another example would be if I have random numbers like 433, 522, 207, 5, and then 937, this really small 5 would be considered an outlier because it's just way smaller than all the other numbers in the data set. So that's an outlier. Just think of it as kind of like the oddball. Another vocabulary word that we need to know is the range. Okay, the range is not like home on the range. It's actually a math term. It's the largest value in a data set minus the smallest value in a data set. So if I have a list of numbers, 8, 4, 1, 7, 6, 9, okay, the smallest one is 1, the biggest number is 9, so we just do 9 minus 1. So the range of values is 8. That's the range. Now, we need to know, and we'll be practicing more tomorrow, when to pick the best measure of central tendency. So remember, there's 3 big ones that we're going to talk about: mean, median, and mode. You want to pick the mean when there is going to be no outliers, and the values, of course, are all numerical because you have to calculate it. So a good example of that where there'd be no outliers, if we were just talking about, let's say, all the students in class and how much money they have in their pocket. Okay, assuming nothing crazy, okay, most people are probably either going to have no money in their pocket, maybe $1 or $2. Okay, so that would be a good measure to pick mean for. Nobody's really going to have like $1,000 or anything like that. That would be crazy. Okay, we're assuming nothing crazy. For median, you want to pick median to represent your measurement when there are outliers, okay, and the values are numerical. So for example, okay, if we were measuring the NBA basketball players, okay, and then Mini-Me, okay, he's the little short guy from Austin Powers. That's a movie that came out a long time ago. But he's about 2.5 feet tall, just to give you a reference. If he walked in the room while you're measuring heights of NBA basketball players, okay, there is an outlier in that situation. Okay, you could measure all of those numerically, so we would want to use the median to represent that because there are outliers present. Okay, little Mini-Me's height would mess up the mean if he was included, so we don't want to use mean. Finally, we want to pick mode when the values are not numerical. So if I was just doing a survey saying, like, what is everybody's favorite color, okay, I'm going to want to tell people, okay, which color was picked the most often. Okay, so those aren't numerical values at all. It's a color. You can't add, subtract colors. So that's when you would pick the mode. All right, I'm Mr. Bork, and this was Chapter 3, Lesson 3, Measures of Central Tendency.